of the first month of the Islamic calendar in the year 61. On the hot desert plains of Karbala, a small city just south of the current Iraqi capital of Baghdad, a small group of 73 noble individuals were massacred by an army of 70,000. The victims were respected followers of the religion of Islam. The perpetrators, led by Yazid, son of Muawiyah, claimed to follow that very same religion. The leader of the small group of men, women, and children was the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, Hussain, son of Ali. Only 50 years had passed since the death of the last messenger of God, and yet already the Islamic nation, the Ummah, was in turmoil. The events that led to the tragedies in Karbala, however, did not begin with the reign of Yazid as the Caliph. They began to unfold in the last moments of Muhammad's life. Hussain, who had inherited the qualities of his father and grandfather before him, refused the request, and in doing so put himself at risk of persecution from the Caliph. News spread across the Ummah of Hussein's stance against Yazid. The people of Kufa, which was one of the weaker links in the Caliph's empire, called upon Hussain to lead them against Yazid in a bid to overthrow the Umayyad dynasty. On the 3rd of Muharram, in the year 61, Hussain and his caravan of family members were confronted and made to stop at Karbala by the river Euphrates, for it was not only Hussein's companions that chose to accompany him, but also his sons, his women, and younger children.
On reading this, Yazid became worried. One of his advisors, Sir John, was also his father's advisor, gave him a letter from Muawiyah. In it, Muawiyah commands that Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, who was the governor of Basra, should go and take the governorship of Kufa.
Ibn Ziyad was an evil man. He hated the Ahlulbayt and their followers. Yazid knew if anyone was able to end the rebellion in Kufa, it was Ibn Ziyad.
He sent him a letter explaining the situation with Muslim ibn Aqil and the lovers of the Ahlulbayt. On reading the letter, Ibn Ziyad made preparations to leave for Kufa right away. He put together a small army of 500 men and made his way to Kufa. He entered the city wearing a black turban and a veil over his face.
The people of Kufa believed it to be Imam Hussain. They gathered around him, cheering and saluting. "Welcome, O grandson of the Prophet." Ibn Ziyad was deeply disturbed by this. He didn't expect that so many of the Kufans were in support of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. They followed him right the way up to the palace of Kufa.
Just as he was about to enter the palace, Ibn Ziyad unveiled his face and then quickly entered the safety of the palace. The people were shocked at seeing Ibn Ziyad and knew that they were now in danger.
Everyone had come to see what he had to say. He climbed the pulpit and began by praising Allah. Then he said,
"Yazid, the commander of the Muslims, has made me the governor of your city. He has ordered me to help the needy and bring justice to the oppressed. He has commanded me to be fair to those who are obedient to Yazid and be cruel to those who behave suspiciously and those who rebel against him."
He continued,
I shall be like a merciful father for the obedient and the good, but my spear and sword will be on the head of those who disobey me. Send my message to Muslim bin Aqil. He should guard himself against my wrath.
This put fear into the hearts of many people. Ibn Ziyad was known to be a cruel man, especially against the followers of the Ahlulbayt.
He then threatened the officials. If the rebel is found in the areas which you control, and you do not tell us about him, you will be hanged on the door of your own house and then fed to the lions. He then gathered all the members of the government and told them, bring me all the people who you think may cause trouble for me, all of them, and I will decide what to do with them. Tell the people, if anyone makes trouble for me, their wealth and blood will belong to me. If I do not kill them, I will then make them my slaves.
Ibn Ziyad has put fear into everyone, even the officials. They now knew they had to bring the lovers of the Ahlulbayt to Ibn Ziyad, or risk being killed themselves, the first target being Muslim ibn Aqil.
Many Shia at this point were gathered, imprisoned, and even killed on the spot.
When Muslim heard about what was going on, he knew he had to move out of Mukhtar's house. Too many people knew he was staying there. He then moved to the house of Hani bin Urwa.
Hani was a noble man, the chief of one of the most powerful tribes in Kufa. He took Muslim into his house, knowing the danger he was in. Soon enough, the Shia started visiting him there in secret. No one could reveal where Muslim was hiding.
At this point, historians narrate that up to 25,000 people had come to give their allegiance to Muslim. Therefore, he sent a letter to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, telling him that the people are in full support of him and waiting eagerly for the arrival.
Meanwhile, a man by the name of Shaykh was also staying as a guest in the house of Hani. He was a companion of Imam Ali and was a supporter of the Ahlulbayt, a very smart man who had built a relationship with the Umayyads. They would trust him, and even though deep down he was a true Muslim and follower of the Ahlulbayt.
Shaykh was now quite old and had fallen very sick. Out of respect, Ibn Ziyad decided to go and visit him at the house of Hani. Shaykh knew that this was now their chance to kill Ibn Ziyad.
Shaykh told Muslim to hide, and when Ibn Ziyad was least expecting it, he would come out and kill him, saving the Shi'as from the oppression of Ibn Ziyad.
Everything was going according to plan. Ibn Ziyad came to visit Shaykh and didn't suspect anything. All Muslim had to do was come out and kill him.
But he couldn't go through with it. Muslim explained that while he lay in hiding, he remembered a tradition of the Holy Prophet against killing the people when they didn't expect it. He also overheard the wife of Hani crying and hoping that no murder would take place in her house.
The advisor of Ibn Ziyad, who was with him at the house of Hani, suspected that something was not right. He felt as if they were in danger, but Ibn Ziyad wasn't convinced.
He therefore called on one of his trusted aides, a man called Ma'aqil. He gave him 3,000 dirham and told him to find Muslim ibn Aqil.
Ibn Ziyad said to him, "Go and become friends with the supporters of Muslim ibn Aqil. Use this money and show them you can be trusted."
Muakkal entered the mosque and waited for a while. He then overheard Muslim bin al-Sajjah telling some of his companions that he had given his oath of allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil.
Mu'akkal approached him and said, "I'm a freed slave from Sham. I've always been a lover of the Ahlulbayt. I hear you have pledged your allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil. I wish to do the same."
Muslim ibn al-Sajjah was a little suspicious. Muakkal saw this, so he showed him the 3,000 dirham. He said, I want to give this money to Muslim ibn Aqil to help him with the rebellion against Ibn Ziyad.
Muslim ibn Osajah knew such money would be helpful. He thought for a while and then decided to take him to see Muslim ibn Aqil.
Maqal pledged his allegiance and swore his life for the cause of the Ahlulbayt. He gave Muslim the money and reassured them of his support.
Once Mu'akkal had heard all their plans and secrets, he left and went straight to Ibn Ziyad. He told him everything.
Ibn Ziyad now knew all their plans and secrets, but first he wanted to play a game.
He called Hani to the palace and asked him, "Where is Muslim ibn Aqil? What have you been planning against me?"
Hani knew he was in trouble. He denied everything and said he didn't know. Ibn Ziyad knew he was lying. He then called for Ma'aqil.
Maqal came out and now Hani knew he had been tricked. He had been caught red-handed.
Ibn Ziyad then said, "Bring Muslim ibn Aqil to me." Hani refused. He was threatened again and again, but Hani refused. He said, "Muslim ibn Aqil is a guest in my house. How can I hand him over to you to be killed?"
Ibn Ziyad became frustrated. He hit Hani over his head with a stick. Hani began to bleed. The guards then took Hani and threw him into jail.
People of Hani's tribe came to the palace with their swords drawn. They wanted to know that Hani was safe.
The judge within the palace came out and told Hani's men that everything was okay. The people of his tribe believed the judge, and one by one they went away.
Muslim ibn Aqil now felt the time had come. Ibn Ziyad knew everything. There was no point in waiting anymore. He gathered all his trusted men and they brought all their supporters. There were about 4,000 men, all heading to the palace.
Ibn Ziyad couldn't believe what was happening. He locked all the palace gates and called his closest advisors. By now, Muslim and his men had surrounded the walls of the palace. They were chanting slogans of war, ready to bring the palace down.
Ibn Ziyad thought for a moment. He knew the only way was if he played a trick on the people. He sent messengers to the wall of the palace. They called out,
"Turn back and go home. Yazid's army from Sham was nearly reached Kufa, an army of 100,000 times strong. They will kill you all. They won't even spare you women and children. All of you will pay unless you turn back and go home."
Ibn Ziyad found that it was working. People began leaving. He then sent messengers throughout the city telling the people that Yazid's army was very close.
The trick worked even better on the women of Kufa. They went to their husbands and children and convinced them not to fight. Soon the 4,000 men became 300.
When the time for Maghrib set in, Muslim and his few followers went to the mosque. By the end of the prayer, Muslim found he was all alone.
Muslim now wandered on the streets of Kufa all alone. It was dark and he had nowhere to go. Tired and thirsty, he sat on the foot of a door. Suddenly a woman came out by the name of Tawa and asked him, "Can I help you?"
Muslim asked her for some water. She gave him some. He drank it, but he found he didn't move any further. He said, "Oh stranger, it is not fitting for you to sit here at my door. Why don't you go home?"
He replied, "I have no home here in Kufa." She then asked, "Who are you?" He replied, "I'm Muslim ibn Aqil, the messenger of Imam Hussain alayhi salam."
She then told him to come in, for it was not safe. Muslim did not expect it to be so kind. She said, "I have always prayed to serve the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Come inside, it is not safe outside."
She took Muslim to one of the rooms and told him to hide there because her son was a guard at that palace. If he came home and found Muslim there, he would report it to Ibn Ziyad.
Muslim stayed there and got some rest and prayed his night prayers. After a while, Talha's son came home. He noticed she wasn't her usual self and that she was paying attention to the room where Muslim was resting.
He asked her what was going on, but she denied him and told him everything was as usual. He kept on asking and wouldn't leave her alone. So she made him promise that if she told him, he wouldn't tell anyone.
He promised, so she told him. Muslim ibn Aqil was hiding in the room. At first, he was shocked, but then he knew if he told Ibn Ziyad, he would get a large reward.
Early in the morning, he left the house and went straight to the palace. He told Ibn Ziyad, and so he sent his guards to arrest Muslim.
Muslim heard the horses coming, so took out his sword and came out into the street.
One by one, he fought the guards, defeating them. Ibn Ziyad then sent even more guards, each of them attacking him at the same time. One of them set a trap and they forced Muslim in, and he was finally caught.
They took him to the palace where Ibn Ziyad was waiting for him. As soon as they met him, Ibn Ziyad said, "I promise you will die today." Muslim replied, "If that is the case, then I want to make my final will."
Ibn Sa'd came to take his will. Muslim told him he had 3 wishes. The first was to sell his sword and armor, and to pay a debt he had in Kufa.
The second was to be buried, and last of all, a message be sent to Imam Hussain alayhi salam not to come to Kufa.
Ibn Ziyad did not object to the debt being paid and was not bothered if he was buried or not, but he refused for any message to be sent to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam.
After exchanging some words, Muslim was taken to the top of the palace. He was praising and glorifying Allah.
Then a man by the name of Bukhair, who Muslim had wounded earlier, took him to the edge of the palace tower, while Muslim continued in his glorification of Allah. Bukhair severed his head.
His head fell all the way to the ground. Bukhair then threw his body over the edge while the people just looked on.
Ibn Ziyad then ordered Hani to be taken to the market, where he too was killed in front of everyone. Nobody said anything. Kufa was now in complete control of Ibn Ziyad, and with no way of knowing, Imam Hussain alayhi salam continued in his journey towards Kufa.
Now that both Muslim ibn Aqil and Hani ibn Urwa had been killed, their heads were sent to Yazid in Damascus.
Yazid was relieved that the uprising of Kufa was destroyed and that Ibn Ziyad was in full control. He sent his father to congratulate Ibn Ziyad and told him, "Keep up the good work. If anyone found acting in any way against us, kill them."
With Kufa now in control, Yazid sent an army under a man called Umar ibn Sa'd to Mecca. Yazid ordered him to confront Imam Hussain, and if possible, to kill him, even if he was near the Kaaba.
When Imam found out that his army was soon approaching, he decided to leave Mecca for Kufa. He didn't want any fighting or bloodshed in the holy city. He changed his niyyah from Hajj to Umrah. He completed his Umrah and got ready to leave the city.